The MacBook Neo is a budget computer. Let me say that again. The MacBook Neo is a budget computer. And I truly do mean that. And I say this because I feel like this hasn't really come across in a lot of the videos I've seen about the MacBook Neo since it came out, especially the embargoed ones. I really feel like the tone and the message that those have been giving is that this computer has no compromises. You're going to get everything you could ever want from it. And I'm recording this from a MacBook Neo. I am sharing my screen. I'm recording video into it. I'm running a Thunderbolt cable into the USB-C cable or port on the device that's running this 4K display. It's running my audio interface, my microphone, my speakers. It's got Ethernet going to it. Like, it's got a whole bunch of stuff going. My mouse and keyboard, all that's running through it. All of it works great. However, it is a budget computer, and I feel like I need to say this because if I bring up the single core performance of this device along with some other devices that I have available to test, you can see that the single core performance is great. It's within spitting distance of the M4 generation, which is coming to an end right now, but is still an incredible computer. And I would say I have seen this godforsaken chart like 1,000 times on social media in the time since the product was announced. And it's mostly from people saying, look at how fast this thing is going to be. This is going to be an uncompromised device. And I really think seeing people post charts like this to defend their choice of computer takes me back to my 90s and early 2000s era of Windows fans sharing charts like this showing how performant Windows was compared to macOS, and having macOS fans like me going, yeah, but your benchmark doesn't tell the whole story. That doesn't tell you the whole experience, doesn't tell you what apps run and everything. And obviously in this case, we don't need to worry about the apps that run on this device versus higher end Macs, because that's the beauty of Macs. Unlike these more locked down modern operating systems like iOS and iPadOS, there's no pro features hardware locked to the more advanced devices. I can run Final Cut Pro on this. This video, if you're watching this right now, that means I successfully edited in Final Cut. And I'm sure it worked great. I have done some editing already. We'll talk about it in a second. It works okay. There is one real serious caveat you should know, but it functions. But charts like this don't tell the whole story of performance. What I can tell you about the performance of this device is that it does well until it does not. There's definitely a wall this computer hits, and when it hits it, it hits it hard. You really feel it. And you may not hit it. Like, maybe you are one of those people who opens a browser, opens one tab, and never does anything else. Maybe you're that sort of person, and in which case, good for you. That's great. This will do really well for you. But a lot of us are not that person. And you probably have a lot of Chrome tabs open. This is a thing I see very commonly on normal people's computers. Or maybe you have just a bunch of apps open because you're in the middle of work and you have Slack and you have your browser and you have all these apps that are open that are doing things for you. And I think this computer is great. I think this computer is really nice. I want to say that up front. I bought one with my own money. I'm not on Apple's review list. You can see the blue from the from the wallpaper, the Mac wallpaper, reflected on my face right now. I think this is a really nice computer for me as a secondary device. But critically, it's my secondary device. I, as someone who has the option to pay more and get a better computer, I would much rather do that. And this sounds obvious, but this is not the takeaway I've been hearing from some people who have been talking about this computer, which is a little wild. And so what I wanted to say is basically the experience of using my main computer, which I have over here. This is the M4 Pro version of the MacBook Pro, the 14-inch. This has been my main computer for a year and a half. I forget when it came out, but I got that when it came out, and it's been outstanding for me. It has what I would describe, here's how I would describe it. I'm not going to pull up a benchmark to prove to you how good it is. What I would say is that I feel like my M4 Pro MacBook Pro has unlimited performance for me. It has 24 gigabytes of RAM. It has a terabyte of storage. The storage I do run out of, and I do need to get. I would love to have like the 4 terabyte model, but that's quite a bit of money. But like, I feel like I have unlimited performance that I can give this. I can be exporting a video in Final Cut. I can be recording my screen with ScreenFlow. I can be building something in Xcode. I can have 3 iOS simulators running. I can have as many browser tabs as I want. I can have my notes open in Obsidian. I can have GitHub doing things. I can have my terminal going. I can do everything. And I promise you, this computer will still be responsive. It will still do everything I want as though nothing was happening. It's incredible. Maybe doing all this at the same time will make my Xcode builds a slight bit slower. Maybe the export from Final Cut will take a little bit longer, but in general, I can just use my computer like normal. It never feels like it's being stressed. It is a magical device. And I feel like we've had that quite a bit for the entire Apple Silicon generation, starting with the M1. And this is the first Apple Silicon device where I feel like we're not really in the magic zone anymore. Now, I think the big limitations here, this is just my feelings, what I expect is the issue, is the RAM. The 8 gigabytes of RAM is tough. As soon as you start to do more than a few things at once, the RAM does start to get you. And then I think the number of CPU cores and their performance level relative to other M-series chips, I think is an issue because, like I said, if you're doing literally one thing, then single core is great. But as soon as you have multiple apps open, multiple things going on, and again, I think a lot of people do have that, you are going to start to feel the crunch. And yeah, so that's a thing I've experienced. And just for some context, this M4 Pro device, that's my personal computer, absolutely. I never expected this computer to compete with this. This one is 4 times the cost, 3 times the cost. And yeah, of course it's faster. Duh. But my work computer for the past 5 years, which is just being replaced now, but this is an M1 MacBook Pro. It is the one that came out in 2020 in like November or December, whenever they announced Apple Silicon for the first time. That was when they said, here's Apple Silicon, here's the M1 chip, here's the MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, and Mac Mini. I have the MacBook Pro. I've been using it for 5 years, like 40 to 50 hours every single week, 5 days a week. I think I have run the MacBook Neo into the ground more often in the couple days I've had it than I have in the entire 5 years of the M5 MacBook Pro. M1 MacBook Pro, I should say. And I think the reason for that is, again, a combination of the multi-thread performance, which I do think is actually relevant to someone who's doing work on one of these devices, and the RAM. Just running into the RAM. I know this isn't what people like to hear. They don't like to hear about video editing, but video editing and exporting specifically takes up a lot of RAM. The video editing is actually totally fine. I was really shocked. I can edit 4K video on this thing surprisingly well. Like it literally works just fine for me. For reference, I usually have a screen recording going and a 4K 30 frames per second video coming from my Canon R6. And it handles that totally well. But the export, it works. It takes a little while. It takes about twice as long as my M4 Pro will do it, but that's fine. But the difference is while I can start an export on my M4 Pro or even my M1 and then go off and do something else while it's working, I cannot do that on this device. It saturates the RAM, it saturates the performance, and it has nothing left to give. This computer has nothing left to give me, and so I can't do anything else, right? Like I can't even browse the web comfortably with it while it's doing an export. And to be clear, this is a budget computer that I'm asking to export a 4K video. It is reasonable that it will run into walls. But I wanted to make clear in this kind of podcast form that there are walls. You will run into things. But this is also what I love about the Mac. One of the things that's great about the iPad is it doesn't let you hurt yourself, really, right? Like it's going to protect you from hurting yourself. It's going to protect you from running too many apps at the same time. It's going to protect you from running apps you shouldn't run or do things you aren't supposed to do. And the Mac does a little bit of that, but not nearly as much. And I think that's beautiful. I think that's great. I think about what I used to do as a kid and tinker on computers, and really it's where I fell in love with computers. And I think it's really great that a computer like this exists today from Apple at a price point that is going to get it into the hands of more young people. Especially with the education discount, you're going to get it for $499 or $599 if you want the 512 gigs with Touch ID. It's still going to have these limitations. It's not going to be the highest performance device. It's not going to have enough RAM to do all the things you want to do, but it will do these things. You can see in my dock, I have Xcode on this device, and I can do all of my iOS development on here. It's a really trippy thing, actually. This is the chip that was in the in the iPhone 16 Pro, and in Xcode, I can run a simulator for the iPhone 17 Pro, which has a newer processor. And would you like to know how it runs on this device? Horribly. It runs very slowly on this device. So it's not great, but I can do it, and I can do all the things I need to. I have built my apps, a couple builds of these apps. I've made changes to them. I've deployed them to, or uploaded them to App Store Connect. I've deployed them. Like, all of that can happen from this device, and that is awesome. Like, that alone makes it more valuable to me than an iPad. And I just think it's really cool this device exists. I think it's cool that Apple hit this price point, and they did it Apple's way. So I think on the hardware front, this thing is awesome. Like, the build quality is outstanding. I think it looks really nice. Like, I genuinely think they could put an M5, an M5 Pro, an M5 Max in here, and people would buy it because the hardware is really nice, right? If you don't need all the I/O that like the Pros have and everything, and if they could make the cooling work, like, this would be a great device. Like, this feels premium. It feels really good. And that's awesome. A little thing that I noticed is that I actually really like the lack of a notch. It has a thicker bezel around, so it still has a webcam, but there's no notch. And I love that. I love it so much. I didn't really appreciate how much I dislike the notch until I had a laptop without one. And yeah, get rid of the notch. Next MacBook Pro, give me a thick bezel. I would be happy to have it because I have things up there. There's menu bar items, and then the things like there's menu bar items that I want to use. There have been times where I want to access my CleanShot history, and I can't get to it because it's behind the thing, and I have to like close other apps or like it's an annoyance. It's not the end of the world, but it is an annoyance, and it's not a thing on this device because you just get the full menu bar. It's great. I think the speakers are fine. I think the headphone jack position actually makes a lot of sense because it's closer to you, and the headphones tend to be plugged in and then run to you, so you have more wiggle room to go wherever you need to go. So I think that's really good. I think the USB 2 speed on the second USB port is definitely an annoyance, and if you're the sort of person who plugs into a monitor and maybe has an SSD plugged in, which is a relatively common setup, you will definitely feel the pain because those transfers will be slow no matter how fast your SSD is. But yeah, I mean, this is not the highest end Mac. It's a budget Mac. Don't take this as me complaining about it. I'm just saying this is not a Mac that everyone is going to want. If you can't afford to get a MacBook Air, I highly recommend the MacBook Air. It's going to be a lot faster. It's going to be a lot better to use. It's going to have a better screen. It's going to be thinner, same weight. It's going to be a better computer for you. But this one is totally fine. It looks nice. It feels good to use. It is just slower. So just know that going in, this is not going to be the highest end device. From my perspective, I will be continuing to use my MacBook Pro as my main computer at my desk, but this really cannibalized my iPad use. I use my iPad Pro as kind of a secondary device around the house. I've tried to travel with it, but I've failed sometimes because when you travel with an iPad, it's usually fine, but then it doesn't have some things. And then I'm like, oh, I wish I had the Mac, but then the Mac is heavy. So I kind of like having a lighter Mac that's cheaper, but does all the Mac things. And if it's a little slower while I'm on vacation, no big deal. That's fine. Or while I'm traveling for work or whatever, that's fine. So I plan on keeping it as a secondary device. And yeah, I think it's cool, but it's definitely a budget Mac, and that's fine, but we should definitely talk about it that way. So that's it for me. It's definitely late here. I need to go to bed, but thank you for listening this week. I'll see you here next time. Bye-bye.